Did you know that amongst all the Guilty Gear titles, Dizzy's fastest standing overhead attack is in Strive? In Guilty Gear X and XX, the startup of her dust attack was 29 frames, while in Xrd it was 27 frames. Outside of dust, her only standing overhead was a fully charged forward heavy slash, coming in at 33 frames of startup, which is hardly viable outside of combos. Though there is no official scientific data that states what should and shouldn't be reactable, it's generally agreed that mix-ups around the 30 frame mark, which is half a second by the way, are very much reactable. Going back to Strive, the startup of the dust attack can vary depending on how long it's held, 20 frames being the shortest with generally weak reward, and 28 frames being the longest with incredible reward. Blocking a mix-up nearing the 20 frame mark is doable, but this is usually the point at which successful blocking becomes more difficult, especially when there are a lot of things to think about, or in other words, when the mental stack is high. With Meter, you can make a tap dust very rewarding on hit, while being not only safe, but also advantageous on block. But you might be thinking, yo Nagai, my Guilty Gear OG-san, what's so special about this? Every character in Strive can do that. Well, you're not wrong, my friend. However, with Meter and the proper setup, you can achieve some pretty interesting scenarios with Dizzy's kit. I've been workshopping a few ideas, and today I want to share a couple of them with you. Before we start, please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing to this channel. That is, of course, if you end up enjoying this. It helps me know that this type of video is not only worth my time making, but also your time watching. Alright, with that said, let's just safe jump right into it. The first scenario I want to talk about involves the dash cancel BRC drift. It should look like this. After a knockdown, low fish, 5k or close slash on Okizeme, dash cancel, BRC, standing dust, and then combo. In this setup, it is required to have Dizzy hit first, and then have the fish hit second. This scenario lends itself quite naturally after a normal throw, and after having a kill sword while Icefield is up, for example. It's particularly handy when you don't have access to those knockdowns that lead into fish biting Okizeme. Now, doing dash cancel into BRC dust isn't anything new, basically every character in Strive can do it. However, going for it is pretty risky, as there is usually a gap between the initial attack and the dust. In this case, Dizzy's fish plays an important role, as it covers the aforementioned gap. Without the staggered fish hit, there's enough time for the opponent to backdash or even throw. Okay, let's talk about the pros and cons of this setup, starting with the pros. Both the high and the low routes are very rewarding on hit. The BRC slowdown allows you to link close slash after the dust, which can lead into a close slash 2H bread and butter combos. The same BRC slowdown also allows you to go for a huge 2D starter. You can cancel 2D into Wings of Light for a big combo, all the while keeping your pressure if they block. Outside of big damage, this setup can also bait impatient YRC attempts. If they YRC on the first interaction, the BRC slowdown allows you to see the startup of the YRC, which you can block on reaction. In terms of cons, this high-low setup is locked behind a 50% meter paywall. For a mix-up, it is on the slower side. Lots of other characters have access to faster mix-ups without requiring meter. By the way, this is not safe to wake up reversals, so make sure you have a good read on your opponent before you try this. With that said, you can safe jab a handful of slower supers with 5k, so there's that if you want to be extra sweaty. Alright, moving on. The second scenario involves the Guardcrush state and a PRC. This is what it looks like. Fully charged 6H, cancel into low fish, 4 drift PRC, fast cancel 5D, and then combo. I like to use this setup after I've exhausted my corner grappling game, since a lot of my strike throw setups involve guard crushing with 6H. If you hit him with a high, you'll have enough time for a standard close slash bread and butter combo. If you open them up with a low 2k, you'll have to be conscientious on your positioning and adjust your combos accordingly. Moving on to the pros and cons. In terms of pros, starting off with a guard crush attack like fully charged 6H disables the opponent's ability to YRC during the block recovery. As you know, Wings of Light is cancelled upon successful YRC, so a player who knows that might get a little impatient with the YRC near Wings of Light activation. You might be thinking, why go through the trouble of doing OTG 2k into guard crush thus bypassing YRC, when you could just simply 5D on Okizeme? Well, 2k into 6H buys us a little more time for Wings of Light, gives us some meter, and jacks up the risk gauge just a bit. In terms of cons, I actually find this setup a lot harder to execute. There's a lot more room for error, like with the slight delay on the PRC cancelling, and the fast cancel into dust or 2K. Like the BRC setup, this is generally not reversal safe. However, there is a nuanced way to set up a Guardcrush against most wake-up DPs. It involves a mid-screen throw, low fish, far slash for the disjointed hitbox, and a fully charged wild assault. Alright, now that we talked about these two setups, I want to quickly address their viability and justify why I personally feel like they might be worth doing. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, standing dusts aren't the fastest overheads, clocking in at an honest 20 frame startup. However, if we count the frames of some other mix-ups that have been moderately successful, in my personal experiences anyway, we can see that these setups hit around the same window, if not slower. These setups have relatively weak reward on hit, while the aforementioned dust setups have fairly strong reward, if we have the resources. Speaking of resources, one can argue that it might not be worth spending 50% meter to force a somewhat reactable high-low situation, but I feel you can justify the cost if you factor in both the damage and the wire C-baiting. Alright everyone, I hope this has been helpful. Finally, while making this video, I had the epiphany of just doing wall assault into standing dust. I mean, lots of aggressive dizzy play doesn't involve wall assault into winds of light, but if I have the resources, why not just 5D? Guardcrush after wall assault has no gap after all. I'll definitely be adding this to my labbing, which by the way you can catch live on stream. I stream on Twitch and YouTube, in which I spend a bunch of time in training room, make goals for improvement, and play on ranked. I don't have a set schedule as I work a full-time job, but I'll be posting when I stream the day before, so please follow my Twitch or subscribe to my YouTube for notifications. Normally I'll have a match vid at the end here, but I think it'll be more helpful if I show those setups again, demonstrated in various other situations. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all have a good day. Alright, take care everybody.